One of the suspects in rapper Young Dolph's murder was able to use his get out of jail card, but not quite for free. A judge handing down defendant Jamarcus Johnson's sentence today, meaning he won't be locked up for his involvement for now. Johnson was sentenced to 6 years of diversion, which means to avoid going to prison, he must complete 20 hours of community service a year instead. If he stays out of trouble, his record could be expunged. Jamarcus Johnson pleaded guilty to 3 counts of accessory after the fact of murder. Now, he testified against one of the shooters, who was his brother, Justin Johnson, who is now serving life in prison plus a total of 50 more years.
All right, so it looks like we got some more updates in the Young Dolph case or the trial, and we are starting to see all of the dominoes fall. Back in September of this year, I think September 26th, Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, was convicted of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and being a felon in possession of a gun, and he was sentenced to life in prison plus 50 years. Right? Straight Drop is the guy that we seen dropping music after Dolph died, trying to jumpstart his rap career. Actually, you know what? I think my first ever YouTube video was about Straight Drop. It don't exist no more, but I'm pretty sure my first video was about Straight Drop. Anyways, he got sentenced back in September, and then 2 days ago, his brother Jamarcus Johnson actually got sentenced for his involvement in this crime as well. Now, if you guys hadn't been paying attention or keeping up with the Dolph trial at all, Jamarcus Johnson, Straight Drop's brother, actually testified against him in court. He took the stand on his own brother. He turned state's witness, handed over evidence, and gave testimony that helped convict his brother. Now, like the clip in the beginning said, Jamarcus was sentenced to a 6-year diversionary program, which means he gets to avoid prison and basically has to undergo like job training, drug testing. He can't have a gun, and then he has to do 20 hours of community service per year, right? It's basically 6 years of probation. And if he completes those 6 years, all of this will be wiped from his record. It'll be expunged like it never happened. And honestly, that's not too shocking, because from what I understand, Jamarcus did not play a significant role in the hit of Young Dolph. In fact, he wasn't even involved with it until a week after it had went down. His brother, Straight Drop, I guess, had dropped a car off to him, not the car used in the murder, but he dropped a car off to him. He dropped a cell phone off to him, and then Straight Drop went on the run from the police. This guy, Jamarcus, his brother, used that cell phone to try to help him keep contact with friends and family in the Memphis area. And then on top of that, he also would answer that phone when Straight Drop's probation officer called, because he was on probation at the time that he killed Young Dolph. And Jamarcus would use Straight Drop's real phone, dial into Straight Drop off of a third phone, put the two together, and let him and his PO have a conversation, effectively tricking the PO into thinking that Straight Drop was still in Memphis when he was long gone by then. That was pretty much his involvement in it. Last year, we seen him plead guilty to these charges, start working with the prosecution, and setting himself up to walk away from this.
Friday, he pleaded guilty to 3 counts of conspiracy after the fact.
With regard to Jamarcus Johnson, as we announced in court, he had no role in the murder of Dolph before it happened. He had no role in the murder of Dolph when it happened.
But prosecutors say he conspired after the fact by helping his half-brother, Justin Johnson, one of the accused shooters.
We had a conference call with the family yesterday. They understand what this is about. And they're encouraged by the progress in the litigation, and ultimately one day they want to see a trial on this thing, and they know this is a step toward that.
Prosecutors say Jamarcus used Justin's cell phone for 2 purposes: to deceive Justin's parole officer into believing he was still in Memphis, and to communicate with Cornelius Smith, another accused shooter in the case. We heard from Johnson's attorney, Josh Corman.
It was very important for Jamarcus and his family, for everyone to understand that he had nothing to do whatsoever with the murder. He had no knowledge of the murder before it happened. He certainly wasn't in conspiring with anyone to plan a murder, didn't know the murder had happened, obviously, until weeks later, learned about it through social media.
Johnson could be required to testify against his brother as part of his plea deal, but Corman says Jamarcus is eager to get back with family.
Speaking of family, I wonder how Straight Drop feels knowing that his brother helped him get 150 years in prison. The prosecutor on this case, Paul Hagerman, said that Jamarcus Johnson had no role in the actual killing of young Dolph, and that's why he is only getting this 6 years of probation. He said that he was used by his brother and that he is not a criminal. In fact, throughout this entire trial, the prosecutor has been telling jurors that CMG, Yo Gotti's record label, wanted young Dolph to work for them, but he turned them down. Later, he wrote diss tracks directed at the label, its artist, and its number 2 person, Big Jook, who was shot and killed outside of a restaurant earlier this year. The prosecutor said that Big Jook had put a $100,000 hit on young Dolph, as well as bounties on all of the artists that are on young Dolph's record label, and he painted the picture that the main suspects in this, or the main people involved, were Big Jook, Justin Johnson, Cornelius Smith, and Hernandez Govine. Even though Jamarcus Johnson definitely 100% was part of the cover-up that went on after it, apparently him turning into a witness or the state earned him a bunch of favor. And when it came time for him to take the stand and give all the information that he had about his brother Straight Drop, he did exactly what he was tasked with.
And now you have a car that he's given you. All right.
Yes, sir.
And you have a telephone that was his.
Yes, sir.
After you get possession of this phone, do people start trying to contact him on this phone?
Yes, sir.
What happens when somebody contacts him on the phone that you have?
I'll text him and tell them that they called or text.
Among those sort of three-way conversations, did he ever talk to somebody identified as C?
The name in the phone was C Girl.
Okay. And the voice, was it a male or a woman?
The one time that I did hear it, he would sound like you.
Sounded like a dude. At the time, did you know who C was?
Nah. No, sir.
Do you now know that to be Cornelius?
Yes, sir.
And have you described part of the conversation having to do with money?
Yes, sir.
Having to do with getting money to C?
It was like, he just kept saying like, what's up, bro? What's up, bro? What's up, bro? And stuff like that. And I was texting my brother, and I was telling him somebody texting, and he was like, who he is and what he want. And then when I told him, he kept saying like he loved him and stuff like that. And then he said, have you talked to him? Then he said, if you talk to him, tell him I need some money for my little girl's birthday party.
Okay.
Yeah.
The money that would be coming from Justin and Unc to this C person?
I don't think it was coming from Justin. I think it was just coming from him.
Coming from Unc.
He was telling him to ask him.
Okay. So C was asking Justin to ask Unc where the money is. At the time, did you know who Unc was?
No.
At the time, had you ever even heard of Big Jook?
I knew he was, yeah.
Had you ever met him?
No.
You ever talked to him?
No, sir.
Okay, but you knew his name
Yeah.
from the rap game and everything else?
So like they said, once he was arrested, he turned over the cell phone, he turned over the car, he told them any information that they wanted. And I'm not saying he did the wrong thing here. If he truly had nothing to do with the murder, didn't know nothing about it, and was just helping his brother run from something, but he didn't know what, then it's a hard position to be in, right? Because you want to help your family out, but at the same time, you don't want to go to prison for forever. So I know bro was going through it while he was up there on that stand, and I know Straight Drop was sitting there watching that whole testimony like, dang, bro, it's over with for me. And it was. Now, like I said, because of his cooperation, the prosecution looked at him favorably. So when it came time for them to recommend a sentence to the judge, they kept it light and they spoke highly of him.
As we talk to more witnesses and talk to, in some cases, more co-defendants and cooperating witnesses, the court is aware. The state now understands the exact participation of Mr. Johnson in the conspiracy with regard to the murder and cover-up of the murder of Adolph Thornton Jr., known as Dolph. Jamarcus Johnson had no involvement in the homicide before the murder. He had no involvement in the homicide during the murder. His involvement was after the fact. About a week after the murder of Adolph Thornton, his brother, Justin Johnson, who in fact was one of the shooters and one of the killers of Adolph Thornton Jr., came to him and gave him certain property. A car, not the car used in the murder, but nevertheless a car that Mr. Justin Johnson had possession of, and a cell phone. Cell phones of particular importance because it was Justin Johnson's cell phone that he had during the murder and that he had used for some time before. This Mr. Johnson agreed to take possession of the car, and he agreed to take possession of the cell phone. His taking possession of the cell phone and the car aided in Mr. Justin Johnson's continued evasion from authorities and his continued cover-up of the conspiracy. This Mr. Johnson also used the telephone. He used the telephone by his brother Justin would call the telephone, and he'd place the telephone up to another telephone, and they would, in essence, trick Justin Johnson's federal probation officer into believing that Justin Johnson still had his cell phone and was still in Memphis, Tennessee, when in fact he had fled after murdering Adolph Thornton and was not in our community. He also did the same thing where he placed Justin Johnson's cell phone up to another cell phone, and he facilitated a conversation, again, this is over a week after the homicide, between his brother Justin Johnson and the other shooter of Adolph Thornton, Cornelius Smith. Mr. Johnson preserved the telephone and turned it over to authorities. He's spoken with the state, and he's described the content of that conversation and the content of some text messages between Cornelius Smith and Justin Johnson that included Mr. Justin Johnson trying to get money to Cornelius Smith after the killing. Now that we understand those to be the facts of his involvement, now that he's given a truthful statement with regard to these things, he has also identified a picture of his brother Justin Johnson wearing the outfit of one of the shooters of Dolph just directly before the homicide. Now that he's been 100% cooperative and truthful, we're asking Your Honor to accept the guilty plea and recommendation in the case.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? Thank you, sir. Put your hand up, Johnson. Have a seat here on the witness stand, please, sir. You're pleading guilty on the superseding information, I-23-00019, the charge for the 3 counts of accessory after the fact. That's an e-felony, carries up to 6 years in prison. You understand that, sir? Yes, sir. Mr. Johnson, I'm going to show you a document for the record. This is a petition to waive the trial by jury and request for acceptance of a plea of guilty. On that bottom right-hand corner where it reads dependent, that you sign that, sir? Yes, sir. Mr. Johnson, all of your rights are above your signature, those are your state and your federal constitutional rights. Did your attorney, Mr. Corman, go over those rights with you and explain them to you, sir? Yes, sir. Do you understand the rights that you waived and given up today, sir? Yes, sir.
So Jamarcus got up there, he signed all of his rights away, pled guilty to it, and then it was pretty much left up to the judge. And we heard the prosecutor say that he could be sentenced to up to 12 years in prison, even though he cooperated because he pled guilty to 3 different charges that had to do with being an accessory after the fact. But there's really 3 things that helped him here. He acknowledged that he took possession of the cell phone in the car. He pled guilty, and he identified a photo of Justin Johnson wearing the same clothes as the one that one of the shooters was wearing in the infamous photo that was released, effectively identifying his brother for the police. That's what got him this very light sentence of 6 years of probation. But yeah, bro, that is basically what I got for this story. Y'all gotta let me know what y'all think about it, because it's crazy, down in the comments below. Anyways, that's basically it for the video, guys. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, tap the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a video. As always, it's been fun rocking with y'all, man. I'm out.